wind carried a cooling breeze that offered little relief from the sun's overbearing heat. Beads of sweat rolled down Kaivor's forehead, dripping into the soil beneath him. Today was especially hot. Lifting, carrying, and moving heavy bundles of crops only made the heat feel worse. Fatigue stretched across his face, exhaustion weighing down his movements. Yet he still did exactly as his mother asked without a single complaint. "Ugh," he grunted, setting another bundle down after carrying it through the long rows of crops toward the storage area. "Kai, could you actually put that over there?" his mother said, pointing toward another section where the same crops had already been stacked together. Kaivor turned his head slowly to where she pointed. His exhausted expression deepened for a moment before he bent down again, lifting the bundle back into his arms. This time, he made sure to place it in the correct spot. Afterward, he dragged himself back toward his mother and immediately snatched the water pouch from beside her. He drank from it like a man who had just wandered 3 days through the desert. "Whoa, whoa, slow down." She quickly pulled the pouch away from him before he could empty the entire thing. "It's not going to run away from you, and we only have a limited amount of water. But, Mom, I'm dying of thirst." Kaivor stuck his tongue out dramatically, his shoulders drooping as though he was moments away from collapsing. "If you die on me today, I'll have to kill you myself." A laugh slipped into her voice despite her words. "And then, you won't get any of the beef stew tonight." At the mention of beef stew, Kaivor straightened almost instantly. "Wow," she said, pretending to sound amazed. "Look at you, so lively all of a sudden." A soft chuckle escaped her as she shook her head. "All right, go take a break." The way she said it sounded less like permission to rest and more like she was rewarding a child with ice cream. "Yes, ma'am." Kaivor saluted dramatically, pressing a hand to his forehead like a soldier responding to a superior officer. The two of them broke into laughter together. As Kaivor walked away to find Mina, he glanced back toward his mother for a moment. The way she worked almost didn't seem human. She never slowed down. Every movement carried a strange grace and elegance that made even exhausting labor look effortless. Whether she was lifting heavy bundles or organizing crops, she moved with a calm rhythm that made the work appear easy. Nearby, Mina sat in the grass, speaking quietly to the frog in her hands as though it understood every word she said. "Mina!" Kaivor called out. At the sound of his voice, the frog suddenly leapt from her hands and disappeared into the tall grass. A shocked gasp escaped her mouth. "Hey!" she shouted after it. "Get back here!" She shoved grass aside desperately, trying to find it again, but the frog had already vanished completely. He got away. Her bottom lip pushed outward into a pout. "That's what frogs do." Kaivor walked over and gently pulled her into a hug. "Besides, he probably has his own family to get back to, you know?" "But he didn't even say goodbye," she muttered, still pouting. "But you had fun with him while he was here, right?" "Yeah," she admitted reluctantly, a tiny smile slowly creeping onto her face. The market overflowed with noise. Carts rattled across stone roads, shop owners shouted deals at passing customers. Coins clinked together. Conversations overlapped endlessly with footsteps, laughter, arguments, and movement. It was chaos. Yet somehow, organized chaos. Everyone came to the market, the wealthy, the poor, and even those beneath that. No matter who you were, eventually you ended up there, searching for something. Kaivor watched the crowds move through their routines, but something about it all felt strange to him. On the surface, everything seemed normal. But underneath that normalcy, something felt hidden. People spoke in hushed voices. Certain conversations immediately stopped when others passed nearby. Some spoke in coded phrases Kaivor didn't fully understand. And above all else, the market didn't feel real. Not completely. It felt like he wasn't truly seeing the world itself, but rather something layered over top of it, like an illusion stretched thin enough for cracks to begin showing underneath. "Hold this!" His mother's voice snapped him out of his thoughts as she pushed a bag of supplies toward him. Kaivor blinked and stared at the bag for a moment before reaching for it. The instant his fingers brushed against it, everything changed. the world suddenly felt like it had turned itself inside out. Sound flattened. Not quieter, not distant, flat. As though sound itself had lost all depth and dimension. People began shouting, guards yelled, feet slammed against stone as panic spread through the market. Kaivor turned sharply toward the source of the commotion. That was when he saw him. A man dressed in a deep black cloak. The darkness of it seemed unnatural, swallowing light itself and making every feature impossible to distinguish. Where a face should have been, there was only blackness, except for two pale sapphire eyes. Guards rushed him immediately, blades swinging toward his body, only for the weapons to pass straight through him, like he wasn't fully there, like reality itself struggled to keep him physical. Then suddenly, those sapphire eyes locked directly onto Kaivor. His body froze. It felt like those eyes pierced straight through him, looking far deeper than flesh or bone, examining him, studying him. Kaivor's body trembled as cold sweat spread across his skin. His heart hammered violently against his chest. The pressure behind that gaze felt unbearable, as though an invisible weight had suddenly dropped directly onto his shoulders. Still, he couldn't look away. A single second stretched into what felt like minutes. "I see you," the voice echoed from the man's direction. "And I will find you again." Yet despite the chaos surrounding him, Kaivor heard those words perfectly clear. It sounded as though the man stood directly beside him, whispering into his ear. The voice was deep, strangely soothing, almost hypnotic. Then a pale sapphire light suddenly burst from the man's eyes and shot directly toward Kaivor. It struck his arm instantly. An intricate glowing mark appeared across his skin, burning with the same pale sapphire color. Kaivor flinched, but strangely, the burning sensation didn't hurt. If anything, it almost felt healing. He stared down at the mark as it slowly faded beneath his skin. Then he looked back up. The man was gone, as though he had never been there at all. The sound of the market returned all at once. Voices, movement, carts, coins. Everything resumed normally. But something felt wrong. The people around him acted as though nothing had happened. The guards who had been chasing the man moments earlier behaved like no incident had even taken place. "Kaivor, can you please hold this?" His mother's impatient voice interrupted his thoughts again. Kaivor turned toward her. The bag was practically pressed against his face. "Oh!" Embarrassment immediately slipped into his voice. He hadn't even realized how long he'd been staring off into space. It was as though she, like everyone else around him, had been completely unaffected by whatever had just happened. Nearby, Mina stood on the edge of stealing candy, sitting perfectly within reach of her tiny hands. "Mina! No!" Their mother grabbed her small hand before she could commit the crime. "We're finished here. Let's head home." She began walking away. Kaivor followed slowly, though his eyes kept drifting back toward the place where the man had stood only moments earlier. "Who was that?" he whispered, mostly to himself. "And what did he do to me?" The place where the mark had faded beneath his skin still tingled faintly. And deep down, Kaivor had the unsettling feeling that whoever that man was, this wouldn't be the last time he saw him, because those words still echoed endlessly through the back of his mind. "I see you, and I will find you again."